We are here because we are dedicated to helping members of our community build lean, strong bodies and confident, resilient minds. Determined to elevate the lives of working professionals, stay-at-home parents, and anyone who is ready to level up their life. Our invigorating group fitness classes, practical nutrition programs, and authentic coaches help ignite your life. Find a place that believes in you. Find a place that challenges you. Find CrossFit Southpaw. We are here with episode 1 of the Southpaw Spotlight. We have one of our longtime founding members, Paul Darda, with us. We're excited he's joining us. Paul's a history teacher, wrapping up a school year right now, a father, a husband, an athlete, and a quarterfinals qualifier. So, Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Glad to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah. So we were just talking a little bit before we started recording here and talking a little bit about when you got into CrossFit. And if you can remember back then, I know it's been quite a while for you, but what kind of was a catalyst to get you in the door? Why did you start looking up, or get an interest in CrossFit?
Yeah, well, I remember it vividly. 2015, I started right after what we call the CrossFit Open in CrossFit, the kind of the yearly test of fitness that we often do. And I was like, I came in and I tried it out. And I was like, what's the Open? And they explained it to me. But the reason why I started was I was doing, I wrestled in college. And then since college, I had, done my own workouts, done some like sprint triathlons, did that for a while, did different weight programs. And I was working out primarily by myself and for years. And maybe occasionally do a triathlon, and there was a little bit of competition there, but I kind of missed I missed the community piece. I missed, working out with people. And for a while I had like a teacher crew, and we'd work out in the mornings, and then that just kind of went away, and I wasn't being productive, and I wasn't sticking to a schedule. It was starting to get sporadic and boring, actually. Um, and so I needed the program, and I wasn't a big group fitness guy before, but I came across like an article on CrossFit or a YouTube video, and I'm like, oh, this seems interesting. And then I looked one up in the area, and in Blaine, and went there and stopped in the door. And a lot of those people are at Southpaw. And it was awesome because they took me in, and everybody comes through the door. You could be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, sanitation worker. It doesn't matter. When you walk in that door, you're a CrossFitter for the day, and I love that piece. So,
Paul, when you talk about the teacher group that you worked out with, doing the triathlons, like workout buddies, some people might call them, is that where you kind of found your accountability, or some of your drive was having these other people or events to kind of train for?
yeah, exactly. Both. People work differently, right? But I found that I wasn't being as productive in the classroom as a teacher, as a dad. There was just a point where, I did, kind of worked out 3 times a week, maintained some basic
Mhm.
fitness. But it was just getting empty, getting monotonous. And my head wasn't clear either,
I've
and
heard
I
this
was like,
analogy before of like
yeah.
life is almost a little more grayscale, right? Like it has some color and some tones to it, but it's not as vivid and bright as you once remember, especially back when you were wrestling.
Yeah, that's really it. I think there's a good point to that, because you're almost you're lost in a way. In a way, I was lost. I had the career going as a teacher. I love my family. I wanted to be the best dad I could be, but something was just missing. And I noticed that, and this still happens to some extent, but after a tough day, maybe it was, with one student, maybe it was the whole class, maybe it's just a tough week with stuff. My head wasn't clear, and then I couldn't go home and be the person I wanted to be, and I needed something, and I didn't want it to be, although I love like having beers, I didn't want it to be that routinely. And I was worried I was going to go, not necessarily that way, but I was worried I was going to just go down more of a negative path. And so I needed something. I wanted to be fitness, and I want to try something brand new. And as soon as I came out of there the first day, I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. This is right because I can show up. I don't have to think about it. I show up at a time. I'm going to get a workout in. There's people here doing the same thing. And I went home that day and it was a tough week. It was a tough month and I could think clearly and make better decisions. And so that's what really hooked me in.
Paul, I've heard you talk about CrossFit classes, kind of like adult recess before, right? And I think that's a great analogy. And I also think that when I think about hard work and stress relief, I don't think about that kind of play factor. But it's interesting to how they do have that kind of intertwined or that marriage of the two things in a CrossFit class. Do you have that same kind of takeaway?
Yeah, I think it's this. I think when you go out for recess as a kid, you might remember if someone told you on the playground, like, "Hey, Darda, you didn't do so well on that math test. Look, do you want to play tag?" Like when you're out there, you're just thinking of playing tag. That's all you're thinking about. And I think when you walk into CrossFit, when you start, that's all you're thinking about because you want to make sure you're into the workout, whatever. And it just that's something why it's like recess because I think when you're at recess, you're thinking about recess. When you're at CrossFit, you're thinking about CrossFit. You can't really your mind can't drift too much. It just doesn't because you're focusing on the movements.
As I was growing up, and it was until recently, and I still have this mindset sometimes, but I'm so focused on efficiency. It's like if I'm going to walk, I want to run and I want to listen to a podcast or listen to a book, and I try to multitask, get all these things done. And in this age of technology, I think it's like hyper efficiency, right? Seeing how much we can get done at the same time. And what's fascinating to me is it taking a step back sometimes and allowing ourselves to clear our mind, giving us a space where we're around other people, we're socially connected, but we're disconnected from our phones, from the other stuff that's going on in our life. It's like the sacred space that we can push ourselves in, and we can see what we're made of. And that clarity that we're able to get allows us to be more like efficient or clear in the rest of our life, as you kind of were alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, right on. And you ask anybody like in the 5 a.m. class, right? Because we've had these
Mhm.
discussions. When you come out of there, 5 a.m. is tough, but it's a certain group, right? And maybe the later classes will get on me for this, but it's a certain breed. It takes a certain person. But here's the thing. I mean, I honestly think one of the reasons they do it that early because it's tough. It's tough even if I haven't.
I'll say I call them a mental defective sometimes because there's something wrong with those people. That being said, I have a great admiration for them, and I think that the loyalty of someone who goes to 5 a.m. Like if you join the 5 a.m. class, you are with a tight group because those people are committed. But I'm sorry, keep going with your story. I like this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think that they'll all tell you when they leave at 5 a.m., they have the most productive work day till like 2. Now, you might be tired at 4:30, 5, 6, it might be done. But, when we want to be productive for the work day, if you want to be productive during the traditional work time hours, that's the best way to do it. You're going to get there, you're going to get up, you might have a little cup of coffee, maybe you don't. You're going to work out, you're going to stretch, you're going to sweat, and then you're going to shower and you're going to be totally awake, mind, body, totally awake, by the time you start work. And I think that's a big reason that all those people do 5 a.m. because you get this jump, this boost, this juice, right?
I think that's counterintuitive too, because we associate uh, when you're in the middle of your life, you've graduated college. College is kind of all about flowering or learning more about yourself. And then as I've seen later in life, your kids are caring for you or figuring out, what to do, and you're retired or you have more time on your hands. But in that middle part of your life, you're tasked with showing up for everyone else. You're responsible for your family, for your job, the people you work with, whatever that happens to be. And it's counterintuitive to think that taking time for yourself actually allows you to show up better for those people. But it allows you to present yourself in such a way that you're able to, it's just like adding rocket fuel to the fire, right? Like you can show up so much more presently, you can get so much more done in less time. And, when your kids are throwing tantrums, you don't have to be that angry, pent up, aggressive parent. You can be calmer and you can respond rationally, and everything else just magnifies as well.
Yeah, right on. I know you and I have talked about this several times, before, after workouts, weekends, you know, just being a good dad. And it's tough because there's no prescription, but like one of the things in there somewhere, which I think we've agreed on and connected on a number of times is just clearing that head and how to do that
Hmm.
and getting that daily workout in. And it doesn't have to be the most perfect workout. Just get in, just show up, and you're going to be better, right? And that's the hardest thing for you and I too. For you and I,
Yeah.
we've had these discussions where it's like love it, love being out there, but sometimes it's difficult. It's a task to get there.
And that's something that we really try to hound it at Southpaw and build a culture around. And again, just like you said, it's much easier said than done. It's something that I still struggle with to this day. But if I show up and the workout's not going like I want it to, or I'm not feeling great, I can have my inner critic coming into my head and telling me all these negative things about myself, when in reality what's awesome is that I'm there and I'm showing up, or whoever it happens to be, and that social networking allows us to show up for each other. But changing your the way that you look at the situation, your mindset, from one of needing to win everything or PR all the time, to one of the most important thing for me to develop is consistency, and this is a pillar of my day. It doesn't have to be the best hour of my day. It's a pillar of
Yeah,
my schedule.
yeah, that's tough. It's still tough for me you know to have that mindset a lot because I want to be the best, when I'm in there. I want
Hmm.
to be the best of me, not necessarily compared to anybody else, but I
Hmm.
just want to be like, if I can do X amount of pull-ups and that's in the workout, I want to be, oh, you normally can do this unbroken Darda, so you better do this. And if you don't,
Hmm.
it's a failure. Like, and that's the thing. It's not about the pull-up. It's not about the number of pull-up. It's about consistency, right? And doing it. That's exactly it. But it's hard. You have to be reminded of that, I think.
And what that builds, though, and what I love so much about it's not the acquisition of that mindset, it's the pursuit of that mindset. And what that builds is that builds resiliency, right? And I think that uh, when you can demonstrate that resiliency in something um, as transparent as physical exertion, which is not pleasant at all. Like it's like, where else do you find a group of people who actively pay money to go through physical torture, right? It's not a thing that happens very frequently. But what it does is it builds a mindset that can withstand stress and turmoil, which is what life is essentially, and how we respond to that and move forward. And you end up finding out that you have more good times than bad times, and that you're slowly moving that needle in the right direction. And it's just a litmus test, or a microcosm of what life is outside of there.
Yeah, I mean, we when I started, I heard about this thing like, "Hey, CrossFitters, why are you training so hard?" Well, don't you know we're training for the apocalypse? Like, we're training for the end
Yeah.
of the world. Like, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so stupid!" Like,
We're gonna scare everyone off here.
and then a pandemic broke out, right?
Yeah,
And we thought like
that's so true.
no one knew what was happening here, and what would be the end, and things are shutting down, and so especially I felt that because the resiliency was built two ways: physically, hopefully I've got protection because I've built up my immune system,
Hmm.
and two, um, I'm ready to adapt to change because every day the workout's
Yeah.
going to change, and it's not always going to be your favorite movement, but going through that day after day, now we're ready for a change this week, and I changed it. It didn't make it easy, but it made it tolerable, right? And I think,
Yeah.
like everybody in the gym, we all struggled over the last year, but we could navigate it and push through it because we kept this consistent, and we're ready to pivot, change, adapt.
Yeah. Dude, we talk so this is great stuff, but we talk about growth versus fixed mindset, or just generally. I think that's big in schools. And fixed mindset being that we're born with certain capabilities or whatever, and growth mindset being that we grow and learn those things. And there's, in reality, there are some things that are genetically we're predisposed to. But the bigger concept here is that I think as a culture we are afraid sometimes to not do well at something. We don't want to show that we're not good at it, because we think that everyone else is, because we see their social media posts. We see, we see their highlight reel, and we're seeing our own bloopers. But when you are forced to do, you go in, you don't know what the workout's going to be, what the movements are going to be. And it turns out to be something that you're not great at, but you're forced to go through it anyway. And you realize that you make it to the other side and you're not entirely sure how it happened, but you ended up there and you're just a little bit better at it. And that mindset, I think, is just it seeps into the rest of your life. And that's what we saw during COVID. I mean, how many people do you talk to that say, I'd love to work out more, but I just don't have the time for it, right? And then we're given literally a year of time. And how many people started working out? Probably less than worked out before when they could go to gyms, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not about that. It's about finding the right culture, the right environment, and setting the right structure up in place. It's not about time or equipment or some magical program. Those are all important factors, but it's about finding something that you can be consistent with and that you enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, you won't find consistency.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have made it through the pandemic mentally, and I had every opportunity available to me, right? I had a job,
Mhm.
I had employment, I had family, loved ones supporting me, getting through. And I was worried about my own kids, mentally, but like
Mhm.
mentally, I don't know if I would have gone through if I didn't have the consistency of fitness. And like you guys stayed open when, open meaning like we did workouts this way. And so many people, I mean, I don't know if you get thank yous for this, but like I'm saying it now, like, and I wasn't even online every day, but the fact that it was there and I could wake up and I had this one consistent piece, to go to each day, that was huge because school wasn't consistent and school is always consistent,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and that was
It's like
just,
death
especially
taxes in
being
school, right?
I mean, especially being a teacher and not, and especially being a teacher for like over a decade. And then all of a sudden that whole world's messed up, so to have that was tough. That was a dark place, but that kept us going. The fact that you kept going, and that's a huge thing too. When people say, "Oh, I don't have enough time." Well, you're more productive when you do go. I can tell
Mhm.
you about that. The last week, I haven't been there much, and I'm not as productive. And in hindsight, if I could go back in time, I would go work out because I'd just be more productive, even though I had that one less hour at work or
Mhm.
sleep or whatever. So that's the thing, and it's like we almost got to write those things down. And
Yeah.
me personally, I got to write them down and look at them every day because they keep recurring. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like those
And it's hard
lessons.
because every time you wake up, you have to restart that, right? You can be riding
Yeah,
high at night, ready to hit it, and then you wake up, and that bed is awfully tempting, right?
yeah,
um, and I think that this is interesting. I use this analogy in terms of finances sometimes, but Parkinson's Law, which is basically just, I hope I'm getting this right because it's being recorded, but the amount of resources we have available, we end up figuring out a way to use. But like with toothpaste, when you first get it, you're just putting those globs on there, like lavishing your mouth, and you get to the end and you figure out how to get like 20 squeezes out of like nothing else there. But that's kind of what adding exercise into your routine does. It helps you be more efficient with what you have, and you can't really explain it. Like, I don't know how I can brush my teeth so many times with an empty tube of toothpaste, but I figure it out, right? And it's like that in a way, except you're getting that amount of toothbrushes from a full tube of toothpaste, right? And it's just that analogy doesn't work perfectly, but I can't explain why the efficiency is up there. And I'm sure it has to do with the endorphins and the mindset and all of that fun stuff, but it's something that you almost have to experience to understand.
right on. I mean, you got to experience it for probably 3 weeks. Like if we're just talking
Mhm.
CrossFit specifically, I mean, I think you gotta go for 3 weeks and literally like journal. Even if you're,
Mhm.
just how do you feel? How productive are you? How are your relationships going? How's your sleep?
Mhm.
And then each day, because it's not going to be great the first week, but by week 3, you're going to be shattering. You're going to be
Yeah,
shattering your former
yeah.
self.
And I feel I think about this as well as reading the book Atomic Habits. I can't remember the author, James Clear or something, but he talks about how if you don't enjoy a habit, you're not going to continue doing it. And I think about starting a fitness routine and what it would be like to walk into a gym for the first time and you scan your card and you walk into the locker room, you grab a towel and you go out there and you're like, I have no idea what to do. And maybe you look something up online ahead of time and maybe you head to the treadmill and you get on there and you're like self-conscious about how to operate it, and then you go over to the machines and you're reading the labels on them and trying to figure out how they work, and it's pretty dummy proof, but you still feel awkward, and you think people are looking at you, there's no one there helping you or guiding you or encouraging you, and it's just like it doesn't reinforce that habit. But when you can go into something, and CrossFit is tough, and that's why it attracts a caliber of person, I think, who likes challenge. But when you have other people there who are encouraging you, who are teaching you how to do things, telling you what to do, and telling you about their experience when they went through it from the beginning, it's a game changer. And you can make it through those tough couple of weeks because you've developed a system, and you're implementing a habit that you actually enjoy,
Yeah.
rather than something you feel like you should do.
Yeah. 100%. Oh,
Paul, this kind of ties into something else, but if you had a friend or family member that you cared about who was on the fence about joining CrossFit, or interested in checking out CrossFit Southpaw, what would you tell them?
it's funny. I mean, I have had that discussion, right? I mean, my own kids, and so I've made the mistake of living, sleeping, breathing, wearing the clothes. Well, here it
Yeah.
is, right here, right? Like all the time, with my kids have grown up, but now they're when they see something, or my daughter is now entering ninth grade, so she's doing things as part of volleyball that echo CrossFit, and she's
Hmm.
realizing that because she's seen some movements and things, and she's like, oh, this was like this. And although they're like, oh, dad, here you go, you're talking about it again, like, you got to be kidding me, all right, enough already. I think it soaks in, and she comes back around, she's like, hey, we did this today, or we did some CrossFit today. But just recently she wants to go to the gym and work out, right, or get a membership. And
Hmm.
I think that's great, and it's a tough thing as a dad because I don't want to crush it. Like, she's
Hmm.
internally, she wants to do it, but I'm deep down, I'm like, well, do you know what you're gonna do when you get to the gym? Like,
Hmm.
you know, and
Yeah.
they don't, but
Yeah.
um, and that's the thing. And then my wife too, she did a boot camp, and she's done other, group fitness classes, and just kind of been out, super busy teacher,
Hmm.
crazy unprecedented year in education. But she's like, yeah, I got to get back or get it back. And, she's like, maybe she's hinted. And I think for her, there's a stigma, with me there. And like, I
Hmm.
want to,
Yeah.
the opens and I compete with it. And she's not that way at all. But I try to tell her, like, listen, let's remember that CrossFit, if it's programmed correctly, which totally, that's why we have so many members and recurring members at Southpaw, is that, every workout is, you scale up, you can scale down. And almost always, we're scaling down all types of people, you scale however, and whatever, that's even a weird word, scale, but um,
Modify or.
yeah, modify. And there's no shame in that. And when you look around, everybody's doing the same movements, but it's
Mhm.
relative. It's not like, you have to do this weight.
Mhm.
And it's
My
relative.
grandma doesn't need to lift the same amount of weight that Olympian does, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, and that's what's so great about it is that and even you guys as coaches, coming in and saying, once you know a member. And that's what's great too, because that doesn't happen at every gym. I've been a visitor at a lot of gyms across the country, and you have that connection too with your coach at
Mhm.
Southpaw. So hey, you're not, cleans. You're new at cleans. Why don't use the bar today, or use the PVC today, or make sure you do this. Like, don't worry about the weight, or you know, uh, Coach Addison coming by and saying, hey, you should throw more on there. And he doesn't often do that, but he knows me well enough to say, hey, take some weight off,
Yeah.
told me, or put some on, which he's
Mhm.
told me. Right. So that's awesome once you get that connection with the coach.
Mhm.
And that's another reason we pay money to go, right?
Mhm.
Because you're getting that connection, and you're going to become better, once you're there. But
It's
to,
almost
to
like personal
back up to
training
the yeah, to
to get
back
to
up
a
to the
sense.
question, like, why CrossFit with the family. I mean, just because it's a program, but it's not what everybody thinks where it's one size fits all. You know,
Hmm.
it is one size fits all types is what it
Hmm.
is, right? And you'll know that if you go for a couple weeks. Um,
Hmm.
and when you look around our gym, you see that. You see, tall guys, short guys,
Yeah, knock
men,
on wood, right?
men and women, and everybody, and that's I think that's a really good sampling when you look at our gym and our demographic. We just have all types of different people, different ages, and that's
Hmm.
they wouldn't be there if it wasn't a one size for all types.
Yeah. And I struggle with that, man, because I think about that a lot of saying that CrossFit is for everyone. And I think it could be, but it's not. It's for people who really want to take it seriously, right? Or for people who really want to make a transformation in their life, or who really want to be their fittest and healthiest self than they have been at any time in their life. Like, what would you say? Do you think you're healthier now than when you were in high school as a wrestler?
Oh yeah, big
That's
time.
putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, big time. And I would actually say even college. I mean, like you were collegiate boxer as well, so like I was in wrestling shape in
Yeah,
college, in high
those
school,
wrestlers are
right?
tough. That's a sport I
Yeah,
wish I had played.
I mean, in boxing is very similar in the fact that like you got to get in sport specific shape, right?
Mhm.
So, but in terms of like nutrition, balance, diet in general, rest days, working out the full body I mean, I'm so much more fit, so much more smart,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah.
And I just think yeah, that just comes with time. But you're actually like you're kind of dumb, like, and I'm a high school teacher, but in
Yeah.
terms of fitness, like unless you're reading about it and you're experiencing a lot of different classes. I mean, I have some students that I teach that are man, they're awesome in a way of what they understand. They are doing
Mhm,
and they're doing snatches and they're stretching all the time, and it's just
mhm.
awesome to see that.
Yeah.
um, and they have that
But
opportunity to do that. So
I think like you said earlier too, though, with your daughter, is that, and I experience this with my son, and I see this with a lot of people, is some people come in and for, whatever reason, it's not their time, right? And they have to go through some of that journey themselves. And that's what I think, you know, most of the people who join CrossFit or who start at Southpaw, this isn't their first rodeo with fitness. They've gone to multiple other gyms. They tried the Globo gym, they tried the Orange Theory, the F45, whatever, and they find that it stagnates, that they plateau, and that they don't find that thing that they're looking for. And so it's really neat to see when they finally do find that and they get so excited about it. But it's not always the right time for people, and you have to balance that. Like, hey, I love this so much, I'm going to talk about it all the time, with the like, you have to go on your journey. And I think that's essentially what CrossFit is in a nutshell. It's like, it's a way that you can express yourself, um, and kind of figure out who you are, what you're made of, right? It doesn't mean you have to lift a ton of weight or run a mile really fast. It's about that self-expression. And that's where we find meaning. It makes it more than just fitness. It makes it about life, which is just transformative and powerful.
yeah, right on. Yep, agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thank you so much for taking this time today, man. I really appreciate it. Our inaugural episode. So, is there anything else that you wanna share or leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think these are awesome because it gives you a way to have dialogue. I would just say this too, like this topic, and I think maybe we got this out a little bit, but like and you didn't ask me about this, but at least directly, but Southpaw, like why, because there's a lot of CrossFit gyms. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know if what audience necessarily will tunes into this, but like Southpaw, I mean, I don't think all CrossFit. The other thing is, and maybe this is a future episode somewhere, but I'm not
We
sure
need
all
to come back.
yeah, I'm not sure all CrossFit gyms are equal just because they say CrossFit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And Southpaw, like the team at Southpaw is always trying to be innovative and do better and seek into their clients. And so it's like, and you and I have talked about this a little bit. Like it's almost synonymous with it, not synonymous necessarily, but very, very similar to like reaching out to your students. Like, how do you connect with your students? What is it that they need? What do they have to know? How do you know what they want to know, what they need to know? Well, you engage with them, you talk to them, you survey them, you talk to other teachers, you talk to other students that are not in your class, and I think that you guys do a really good job of that. Is really investing in your members, and then we see results. Right, like
Mhm.
let's do some podcasts. We want to let's use more bikes. We start to see more bikes. How about nutrition? Well, there's a nutrition program. There's always something coming out, and so Southpaw is a special place, and that's why so many of us are there right now, because they're innovative. They're on the cutting edge, and people need to know that. They need to know that that's a because you can go to Coonrad, you can go somewhere to Coonrad. I don't know where they all are near us, but they're close, right? But Southpaw is doing a lot of special stuff, so that's what we
Paul,
should.
thank you very much. I got to pay you for this afterwards, but no, thank you very much. It means a lot, and it's because of the awesome people that we have there that allow us to do that. So we're just trying to you know s- stay on the edge, stay sharp, and move forward. So grateful to have you on, man, and yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Take care.